And we are live. Welcome to Mainstream Movies Reviews number 8. We will talk about Venom, Venom 2, and whatever the last dance is.
Uh,
How are you, Dlord?
I am good. Been working on grinding games and I was going to see Venom 3 regardless if it sucked. To be fair, I went in with under expectations. And
I
it turned
feel you, man.
it,
Well,
but they will get to that though. And I figure, hey, did your other, I was like, I'll be a good friend. I'll watch the other two. Even though I have a grudge, yeah.
we'll talk about that later. How are you, Cole? Cole, are you with us?
Yep,
Is the Cole
sorry,
there?
sorry, my bad. Yeah, I'm doing all right, I guess. Yeah, I was taking like a break from kind of being as active on the internet for a little while, and I still kind of am. But I saw this that you're streaming here up at night, so I was like, I might as well join. And yeah, other than that, yeah, just been working on a lot of writing and other hobbies in the background, and yeah. I also have a funny story to tell you later, but yeah, I'll keep that private. But yeah, and I'm excited to talk about these amazing films that are just incredibly well made and written, and they're definitely not just desperate cash grabs made for babies. But anyway,
I wouldn't call it that. I mean, I think the original concept of Venom, it had, they had no plans to shove him into the MCU. They had no, it's kind of
Well,
like
they wanted to. No, no, no. Don't start lying there. They had low expectation, and my guess is they really wanted Venom to be part of the MCU, but the MCU was like, no, stay away, Sony, stay away.
no, okay. The only Sony film that's actually, I think, MCU is like one of the Spider-Mans, right? It's like one of the early, because it's like the idea. Because it's not really until officially, I think it's like No Way Home. It's like, and with like two, it's like hinted that Venom gets transported to the MCU.
Yeah,
I mean, okay, I can understand why people don't like Venom because it has a lot of meta humor.
that's
It
one way to put it.
meta humor can, look it look. I hated the meta humor in She-Hulk, but I enjoy it in Venom.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I just want to say Andrew Garfield was offered to be the Spider-Man and return in this universe, and he said no, and thank God for that.
and I think it's the perfect spot for this. And yeah, Venom one, Venom one, terrible. Well, not terrible. Actually, that's the only good one based on what I see. But maybe I'm in the minority. So I will let D-Lord start on that one because I know Cole, you didn't like any of these Venom any of the Venom you've seen actually. So I
Hmm.
will let D-Lord try to defend
Okay,
that.
I'm probably going to be in the minority here, and you're in these because I'm going to ask you to. What do you know of Tom Hardy?
Bane.
What?
Okay, Cole.
The
What do you?
actor, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, the actor.
Yeah, I mean he's a solid actor. Of course, I've seen him
weird
in.
actor. He was Bane. Then he also had an adult industry work prior.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
wow.
but yeah, I mean
Okay.
he's been solid in a lot of stuff.
He is a very wide range of actor. Okay,
Sure. Mainly
it's
as a supporting guy, not really as much as a lead guy, but yeah, he's solid. I do like him, and he's actually the only thing I kind of like about these Venom films because even though the scenes aren't that crazy though, and they're like whatever, he tries his best to just like embrace insane character and just put the ego aside with it, and it makes it somewhat entertaining and charming at points. But yeah, that's about it.
Now, I will say, they went with the original premise as like one of the Venom side stories of the Life Foundation. So it's like a Elseworld style story, and it works. Now, I find myself entertained because I look at it, I guess the budget to date, it had a $116 million budget, 110. And it wound up making 160. Okay. You can't say it was a bad film. It's entertaining. Not the greatest, and it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I found myself entertained. There is
I'm with you, but I could see why people ate it.
it's look, there's actually two Venom can be a meta character, just like She-Hulk initially in side stories, or Deadpool is a meta character. Basically, Deadpool got famous for making jokes, breaking the fourth wall. So did She-Hulk at some point, but the show couldn't capture it. So Venom, right? It goes off the idea of the Life Foundation. Now they want to follow that with a weird spin-off in symbiotes, which is fine. I liked it. It's the idea. That's why by the time you get through, you start seeing the other ones. But bear in mind, as I said, the movie didn't really lose money. It was originally 110. I don't think they intended it to be a huge success. It worked. It wound up making nearly 860 million. And see, Cole, you know more about the movies than I do. That meant it made up over.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised by that because so many dog shit films makes like $1 billion, right? The Lion King 2019 is the most successful animated film of all time.
Okay, I thought you were going to say, I actually thought you were going to say Captain Marvel.
Oh, well, that too. But yeah, I'm not surprised. And also Sony, like even if it didn't make that much money, they always put a low amount of money into their films and market them in a way to please to younger audiences and younger audiences.
But what's funny about it is, though, let me say this. It was done by Sony and not by Disney. Which is funny that it is the second Marvel film done by Sony that was actually better than the Disney ones.
Oh my. I think you exaggerate a bit.
I mean, know. What's the other one? The Spider-Mans?
What?
Spider-Man was the other one.
I don't know.
So the idea...
I liked the first the Amazing Spider-Man, but to say it's in the Disney's...
So when they do the Sonys, right, it's just... I enjoyed Venom 1. It is definitely a different take on the Venom symbiote, but it is the Life Foundation story. Which is fine. It's the Life Foundation without being attached to the MCU.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a different film and it was embraced and it wasn't like, and you can't claim it was superhero fatigue. People still enjoyed it.
That's 2018, so yeah, that was before the fatigue.
You were definitely, it was in a period that the Marvel films at the time were not doing good, but Venom worked.
I admit that. Yeah, I agree. Do you want to add more, Dlord? I guess you...
That's it.
Is this all you had to say?
But it is a good film. It was an alternative film because it was done by Sony. And I don't think they ever had the intention to attach it to the MCU. It's
Doubt
like
it. They always have that dream.
I think they wanted to. I just don't think it's going to work. You're not going to introduce Venom through the Life Foundation.
Yeah.
But the Life Foundation, I'll say this before I let you. The idea of the Life Foundation was a side story after Venom was Eddie Brock was in his anti-hero phase in the comics, and they captured the Venom symbiote, bled it to create other symbiotes.
And this is how people are dangerous. So I guess now I will pass on the mic to Cole. What
Yeah,
did you think of the original?
well, I did also just want to ask. So, like you said, it came out at a time when they weren't doing so well at the box office. Did you say?
Yeah, in a way, right? It was
Um,
20.
well, it was 2018. That was when like Black Panther: Infinity War made like $1 billion, and then Ant-Man and the Wasp was the most successful Ant-Man film at the box office. That was 2018. But
Wow.
Well, okay, you forget some years, but Black Panther was that anomaly too.
Yeah.
yeah, but that's 3 big successes, and that's just the MCU. But I mean, regardless, anyway, with Venom,
But it wasn't part of near the same phase though. Because
yeah,
if you're gonna have the discussion on Black Panther though, Black Panther is actually made that character look really good. So it wasn't the idea. It wasn't and that is a very separate, right?
Yeah. But you're the one that brought that one up.
And maybe get the years off, right? But yeah, no, I didn't think Black Panther came out. But the idea of Black Panther being good, that was an anomaly too. But then bear in mind, they had good casting. But I got the year wrong, and I admit that.
Yeah. So Cole, Venom 1.
yeah, I thought this was terrible. Sorry. Look, again, I like Tom Hardy in it. He embraces the role. That's the only thing I really like about it. The rest of the cast I didn't like at all. And there's good actors in it. Like I do like Riz Ahmed a lot. If you haven't seen Sound of Metal, I'd recommend it. And I do like Jenny Slate and others, but they had just nothing to do in this film. They had no character at all, really, and yeah, it was just felt pointless there. The story I didn't like or really care for at all. Like I got what they were going for with it, and it was just horribly executed in my opinion. And they made Venom just a loser, pretty much. Which
You're a loser.
yeah, and yeah, the direction was messy as hell. The editing was some of the sloppiest shit I've ever seen, and with the pacing too, it felt like it just like Madam Web, where it's like there was like 5 movies edited together. And they also did some horrible editing techniques to try to hide some kills and gores and stuff to make it PG, so all the babies can watch Venom, because yeah, that's totally a baby IP. So yeah, thank you Sony, but yeah, it looked terrible as well. A lot of people just liked this at the time and quote unquote embraced it because again, it was before comic book fatigue, and a lot of casual audiences, they don't truly know the Venom character, but they know of Venom and find him cool on the surface. So there's not as much for the casuals to be angry about, and so they just thought of it as an entertaining popcorn flick with the humor and everything, and just because of how Tom Hardy and others kind of embrace themselves in the role, so they thought it was fun, and then all the memes came in and everything. But as somebody who does so, it was just not fun at all, and especially just it being PG was just like a really downgrade for me. There was all the action scenes and everything was not entertaining to me. There was only a couple moments where it was kind of entertaining. The rest of it was just really sloppy and poorly done and just very generic. There are like 50 things in this film where like I'm not one to usually care as much about like plot holes or stupid character decisions, but I could name literally like 50 of them. all the way back and like when he just went to that fucking facility and then just started spamming a bunch of buttons for no fucking reason. It was like the dumbest shit ever, and there's so many moments like that throughout the film just to move it along because they don't know what they're doing, especially with who the fucking director is, Ruben Fleischer, who, yeah, he made Zombieland, which was great, and then he just became a hack after that, made that shitty Uncharted film as well, so I'm not surprised, but yeah, was not entertained by this at all. It did nothing for me with the visuals or anything else or the music. Got that Eminem song from it, sure, that was kind of entertaining, whatever. Yeah, and the acting again by some supporting cast members really sucked. I really am not a big fan of Michelle Williams, and yeah, I definitely did not like her much in this. Yeah, and that post credit scene, I believe. I forgot if it was post credit scene or just like right at the end. I forgot with Woody Harrelson, but I did not like that either. Heading into the sequel, like I like Woody Harrelson, but I don't think that he was a good choice to play Carnage. And not to really spoil as much about my thoughts on the second, although you kind of know what they are already, but proven there myself at least what I thought. Was not a good fit for it at all, in my opinion. Like some other people brought it up, but I seriously, not that an actor like that and in their prime would actually accept an offer from the shitty Sony verse. So not that I would have gotten him, but somebody like Jesse Plemons would have been way better. But yeah. So I really have to say, just this was a mess of a film, but it was kind of fun. Like it's kind of fun at the same time. Like it is entertaining, sure, but not in a good way. Like it's like Morbius. We're laughing at it, not with it. But if you're casual though, then you might be laughing with it. But I was definitely laughing at it.
Do you want to add more on the first Venom?
No, that's about it.
Okay, well, it's my go to kind of defend the first Venom because I will admit I liked it. Here are my issues, and then I will go into what I did like. The super strength wasn't consistent since Eddie was shown to break steel, yet when he punches people, he doesn't break all their bones. And he wasn't really in control based on what I remember. I've seen it like 2 months ago. I might be wrong, but like why didn't he break everyone's bones? One punch, boom, issue solved. But no, we need to keep it PG and consistent. Second issue would be Symbiote's character arc into wanting to help Eddie felt rushed and poorly executed. He sided with Eddie because the good guys needed their weapon to fight bad guys. I thought that was weak, that part. And I will say, as my last issue, overall the humor didn't work at all. Mainly the parasite jokes and the eating people jokes. They keep bashing you over the head with that kind of humor. That was terrible. I hated this shit. And this alone took off a lot of points for me. An entire point, for the matter. So, yeah, outside of that, I will admit, I enjoyed the action. We had nice parallels between Eddie and the villains, not having any morals and using others for their own benefits. It was kind of cool that we had Eddie as being a reluctant hero. He didn't really want to be a hero, but he ended up being one. And it made sense that Eddie would try to get rid of the symbiote because you're like, yeah, I don't want you. The action, I liked it. The music, I liked it. I was entertained. I think it's a decent flick. But that's the only watchable Venom in my books. The only watchable Venom. Because the other two are bad. maybe I'm too generous, but that's how I felt, and I won't go on and on about it because I just think it's a great flick, and there's not much I can add. So, except if guys would like to add more, I think it's the perfect moment to just give our score to the first Venom.
And nothing for me, really.
Okay, well, I will give the first Venom a solid 8.5 out of 10. What about you, Dlord?
I give it an 8 out of 10. I'm pretty honest. Like I think the deal about it is I think there's a way, and this is something you have to understand with Marvel or different film. And this was an issue that what you're describing with the idea of ratings and affecting films. Why did Deadpool and Wolverine work? Because it was rated R. Deadpool's a rated R character. Deadpool's a mature character.
Yeah,
Venom is not a nice guy. Eddie Brock in the comics killed people.
and I feel
So
like you should have deleted people throughout the
because
trilogy.
he is like because even though if you go by comics, right, the symbiote first bonds with Peter, but that gets retconned way down the line, I guess, at some point, depending on it, like with the later stories. Venom is like a brute version. Like, yeah, he would break people's bodies, but here and there. But it's also Venom is not. eh, Depends on the symbiote's power. But I give it that rating. It's actually pretty good. Like, it's one of those realms for not being attached. It's a good, entertaining flick. And let me say this on Cole. Like, if you understand Cletus Cassidy's like cameo, it's kind of like what was it, Deadpool 2? Or was it Deadpool teased he wanted to go with Cable? Like
Yeah,
fight Cable,
that was the second one, yeah.
like the idea of it felt right. But Cletus Cassidy is a killer and crazy, so Woody Harrelson makes sense. But
I strongly disagree. He can play those characters sometimes, but it
who would
depends.
you put instead?
Well, as I said before, just somebody like Jesse Plemons, but he definitely wouldn't have accepted something like this, or they wouldn't have gotten somebody like that. Like again, Harrelson can play characters like this sometimes, but I think because of the craziness in some of his roles and everything, and a couple of those roles, people have kind of misunderstood what he's really best at, and just like think of him like that, but he's really not like that as an actor. He really is best with like playing like characters that are like a little bit crazy, sure, but are kind of like lovable at the same time, and you cheer them on, and they're a bit of losers, but yeah, and
I mean,
yeah, he's just not really fit for this role anyway. And but could have worked if the writing and everything else was better, and the material, which wasn't. But that's besides the point.
so what I mean when you talk about the idea, right? I think they were trying to see the idea. You either had the choice to go with depends on your origins, right? Because it's going to lead into Let There Be Carnage, which is the second one. You could have redone the story of Maximum Carnage because the idea of Carnage's origin is Venom breaks out, Eddie Brock breaks out of jail, and a piece of him breaks off, bonds to Cletus Cassidy, and he's the first symbiote created afterwards. Because he bonded with Cletus Cassidy, that's why Carnage is absolutely a crazy person who, even back then in 90s Marvel Comics, was known for being a butcher and a killer. But bear in mind, it's not as much the normie take, but Maximum Carnage is still one of the darkest stories. Because people actually do die. Because Carnage didn't have any idea. Because Carnage grew from being bonded with Cletus Cassidy, who was absolutely batshit crazy. Now, the question, would they be able to capture that, or are they just going to let Carnage be Carnage? It's give or take. Because he is basically Venom without a moral compass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they did a horrible job with it, but I didn't expect them to do a good job, especially with just one film with him in it, than just a PG again. Sony's just more interested in making money, so that they'll never make a rated R Venom. But anyway, yeah, this is a 2 out of 10. It's pretty terrible, and I also will just say,
Fair.
While I agree that would have been better rated R, and Deadpool and Wolverine being rated R helped, I would say, like, even if Deadpool and Wolverine wasn't rated R, just everything else about it is just better compared to it. There's an
See,
actual
even the
style to
PG, let me say this, even the PG-13 Deadpools weren't that bad. They couldn't do the jokes.
They were not PG-13 Deadpool.
Well, yes, there was Once Upon a Deadpool, I believe that was.
Oh, the second one was PG?
No, there's
Huh?
a version of it that's PG-13.
Oh, okay.
But
What was that?
yeah, again, it's just there's an actual style to it, whether you like it or not. And I would say the acting works better, the humor works better. Like,
What was
there's
it?
It's
Sorry.
just better overall, but Dlord, stop interrupting. Cole.
No.
Cole, what did you wanted to say?
Oh no, I was done. That's okay. But
Okay. Okay, well, Dlord, that's your go now. What did you wanted to say?
No, I think it's too, because it's like they did. It depends on what you're doing with the film. Now, I mean, Venom is the direction you were going. It's like one of the Deadpool films. What are you going to do with Deadpool? Deadpool has to kill people and be comedical doing it. Because in the modern era, regardless, Venom is a very extreme person, even as an anti-hero. Because at this time, even if you were basing it on the Life Foundation era, he would have been an anti-hero. He cannot be 100% good, but he still kills people. It's like Deadpool. Deadpool is known as the Merc without the mouth. Merc with a mouth, basically. That's what made him famous more in the modern era. That's why people know him. He is known for... It's the same films. Like, as much as I like the early Deadpool films, it's not really Deadpool to me.
That's interesting.
Because Deadpool, for a fun fact, in the more modern era, when he is serious in a story, he's an assassin. He is a killer. He doesn't make a lot of jokes. But when he's in a side book, like when they didn't want to shelve him, but they teamed him up with Cable, they made him comedical. That's the image a lot of people know. Bear in mind, and there's not a side tangent as much as you understand. That's why I've heard people not like Deadpool and Wolverine. I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's fine. So I guess we can move on to Venom 2, because we already talked in length about Deadpool in the past. So since you're there, Dlord, what did you think of the sequel of Venom?
I mean, I enjoyed it. Not as much as the first. I mean, it's a stranger film. I mean, a lot of it is just he realizes it's clearly a thing. There is nothing, and he's in it. I mean, he basically has to fight Carnage. I mean, did they want to redo like Maximum Carnage? Probably not. I mean, are you going to make him a killer? Like 100%? Because like when Carnage usually first awakens, he goes on a killing spree. The only person who at the time could stop him was either Spider-Man or Venom or both. And it leads into later stories. Now, I mean, I still find it a little bit janky, but I didn't hate it. I didn't enjoy it as much as the first one. It's a lower rating because they do stick with the comics a little bit. They do stick with the characters. And that's one thing about this universe. They do use characters from the comics. So it's like, how would you execute it? But then again, it's like as Cole said, you do not want to do the full murder spree.
Yeah.
So you have to make it normal, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, that's what I say on that. It's a separate feel because if you're going to play with Carnage, you have to play with Carnage's origin. But Sony did not. You want a kid-friendly film, but you want adults to enjoy it too. And that's probably what hurt its reception.
Because it should have been R-rated.
Oh yeah, it's easy. Like, it's the idea, and you might have still ruffled feathers, but it's anyone who knows Carnage. Carnage is, as I said, Carnage has a name Carnage for a reason. But that's basically my thing. Anyways, but that's what I say on that.
Okay. Do you want to add more, or we
No,
pass
that's
the
good.
mic to Cole? Okay, Cole. Tear it apart.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to tear it apart as much as the first, because really I have just the same kind of issues with it as I do with the first. It's just kind of copy paste. So I'm not really going to repeat a lot of it. Just again, cast side actors and everything just didn't really try, especially Michelle Williams. Now there weren't like as many flaws in this one as there were in the first. Like it wasn't as like messy and a lot of technical areas, but it was also a lot more just flat and pointless in my opinion. Like at least with the first, there were attempts at things and like with making it fun, which I did enjoy, even if again I was laughing at it, not with it. With this one, it was just like just very flat and lifeless. A lot of it, especially just the direction by Andy Serkis. It's like he didn't even try with it or whatever. He just did this for a quick paycheck. And Tom Hardy didn't really try as much in the role in this film as he did in the first film. And same thing with like a lot of the cast. Like I still hate Michelle Williams in this. But also, Naomi Harris is. I like Naomi Harris, but yeah, she had no point of being in this film. Basically, her character was nothing at all. It was just a waste. And again, Woody Harrelson had moments where he was good, but it just didn't work for me overall. And yeah, it was just a very forgettable film that was just quickly rushed again to make a profit, and because it was sandwiched in between the first one and then No Way Home coming out, they wanted to rush it out to help get those ticket sales for it, and because they knew people would go see it for the post-credit scene with Tom Holland at the end and everything else. That was basically what this was made for. And yeah, it was just a pointless, forgettable film. Once again, the story and character, like Bond attempts, like I get what they were going for, and it could have been done well, but it's done just horribly and lifeless to me. It wasn't funny at all, and Yeah, I will just ask so multi since you probably don't remember, but in that since you now saw these Venom films and you saw them, you didn't see them at the time when you saw the second Spider Verse film. They had some random like cameo scene in the second into the across the Spider Verse film where that one villain guy just randomly like teleports into the Venom universe with that just one character as the cashier. If you remember that,
I don't.
but probably not. Yeah, it was just like a random thing they just had to insert into it. Yeah, that was my least favorite part of that Spider Verse film because they had to fucking insert a scene from Venom into it just to fucking promote their universe. God damn, but yeah, I really don't have much else to say because again, just have very similar issues with it. But yeah, this is not as poorly made when it comes to like technical issues and everything else, but it's also just pretty lifeless as well in areas that I at least thought were fun in the first. So overall, it's about the same. I don't know which one's worse. Like, probably the first one's worse for me, but the second one's just. I mean, if I had to like rewatch one though, I would still rewatch the first over the second though. Yeah, it's just not a memorable film at all.
I cannot blame you. So I guess that's my go. My first issue, because I got a lot of issues with Venom 2. Venom 2 is bad, and the third one follows that trend by being bad as well. But yeah, here's my first issue. The attempt at humor in the bathroom sequence was terrible. More bad humor with Pablo Picasso. More a ooze joke that didn't land. I'm trying to remain YouTube friendly. Not funny apartment destruction scene. I admit the CGI in the prison and with Carnage was terrible. And usually I'm not one to complain about CGI, but if it's there, that means it's terrible. Not funny joke about being out of Eddie's closet. More bad humor in the prison break sequence. It's stupid how Carnage broke the glass prison whiteout cutting to shred his girlfriend. Anne's plot armor was way too huge in the final fight. And these are my issues. Uh, I will admit the story about being back on top was decent. Venom telling how Eddie feel was okay. Emotional pain being worse than physical was also well depicted in the movie. Eddie' desire to be free of Venom created destruction, and consequence are recurring theme, I guess. But that's it. That's the only few decent things. Well, the action was okay. The music was okay. But that's it. That movie doesn't feel like it deserves to be made. It's sad to say, but that's how I feel about Venom 2. That wasn't great. Um, I don't have a lot more to say. Again, the action was cool. I was entertained most of the movie. At least I wasn't bored. That's a good thing, right? So yeah, I will ask the panel if we add anything on Venom 2.
I wouldn't say much. It's like it's that weird thing. Like it's not as bad as you want a sequel. You knew that you were gonna do it, but it's definitely weird because it's like that moment you're either gonna move it. But as I said, it wasn't as good as the first. The first had the meta humor a little bit different. Maybe it's like a sleeper hit. It makes it interesting. Oh, before I forget though, the Venomverse was a thing in a side story though, in the comics as well. So it's weird how uh, they pull from sources. I mean, but then again, I wasn't a huge fan of Into the Spider Verse. It's not that I don't hate stories like that. But it's like Venom verse. It would be like I like the Joker verse the same way. It makes sense without the other stuff. But when you want to connect it to the rest of something, it doesn't make sense, and it's probably going to be out of place. So, but as I said, it's not as good as the first. I mean, the third definitely is big improvement.
My depends on who you talk to. I disagree. I think it's as bad.
There's parts.
Maybe actually, I think it's actually worse because I see more different issues. So I'd say the third one is actually worse.
Uh, I have my gripes for the third, but overall, I like it.
I'm reading through my notes right now, and yeah, I think the third one is actually worst. But yeah, what would be your grade out of 10, Dlord?
Give it less. It's like a 6. Not bad, but not good.
What about you, Cole?
I mean, I would probably give it like a 2.5, I guess. So a little bit better objectively, but it's still in the twos. It's still just as shit to me as the first, and because again, just wasn't as fun. It was just like it's like a dementia patient watching it. It's just like I can't remember much of anything about it besides just some like moments near the end and the beginning. Yeah.
Okay, well, my grade is a 4 out of 10, so that means it's bad. Um, Quite simple for me. It's bad. I don't recommend watching this. So I will ask you, Cole. Do you still want to stick around to laugh at us? Well, at me tearing it apart because apparently Dlord likes it, or do you want to go?
Um. I'm probably going to go just because I have some other stuff I need to do just in the background right now, and like not like anything important, but just some stuff I should get done with, and then also like writing some movie reviews and other things. But if you're let me know though when you do that other stream right after, and I'll see if I can hop on. Like I'd probably only be there for like maybe the
Small
first.
2? Yeah.
Well, yeah, small. Well, actually, it
And
depends.
Terrifier. We
Yeah, I
do
mean,
both. We do
yeah.
both.
Are you doing both smiles or
Yeah.
just the first one?
We do both smiles. We start with smile 1, and then if you're with us, I think what we would do is smile 1, Terrifier 2, and then we would talk about smile 2 and Terrifier 3
Okay, for
once
sure.
you leave.
Just
Yeah.
yeah, DM me when you do that, and yeah, I'll see if I can
Perfect.
join. But yeah,
Perfect. Well, thank you a lot, Cole, for joining us. That was a great return. And we will talk very soon about other movies. Thank you, Cole.
yeah, for sure, no problem. Just go see a Nora if you haven't yet. It destroys all these shitty films. Fine.
I've seen it, bro.
Yeah,
Yesterday I liked it. I did a stream. I covered We Live we Live in Time. I like that one. And Anora.
oh yeah, that Andrew Garfield one. Yeah, yeah.
They work very well together. I feel like they have very interesting depiction on society and love in general.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'd say Nora is probably my favorite film of the year, but yeah, and also if you need any other suggestions for again not just the streams, just to add to your list again, let me know. There's some other new ones I've seen recently or that are coming out. Like there are two films I just watched which I don't think they're like amazing or anything, but they're fairly solid. It was called Blitz and Baby Girl, but like they're not the best, but they're pretty solid. However, they do star an actor you really like, Harris Dickinson. Do you remember his name? It's in
No.
Triangle of Sadness, The Iron Claw. He's that guy.
Oh, that guy.
Yes, yeah,
I'm sold. I want to see it now.
sure. But
Send
yeah,
send the name of that movie to me in DMs. I will
yeah,
look into it.
for sure. Okay,
So thank you. See you
yeah,
soon.
yep. See ya.
So we enter Venom 3: The Last Dance. Since you are more positive than me on that one, I will actually start with this. Coming into it, I was like, you know what? I've seen two Venom movies. The first one was kind of cool. I liked it. The second one was bad. I was entertained at best. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but it was a movie among movies. And as someone that has seen a bunch of movies this year, well, that was kind of bad. So I have seen the trailer for Venom 3 and I was like, you know what? That looks kind of bad. So let's have no expectation whatsoever. And maybe it will surprise me, maybe it will be good. I mean, Transformer 1 did surprise me and it ended up being really solid. It's like top 25-ish this year for me, and I've seen like over 62 movies that came out this year, so it's kind of high. And the trailer didn't sell me the movie well, so coming into Venom 3, I was like, you know what, maybe that trailer doesn't represent the movie. Then I arrive at the theater, I start watching Venom 3, and I'm like, oh my, okay, okay, they try having some lore, that's kind of cool. Um, then issues came. I feel like the acting or the directing, I don't know what went wrong, but throughout the movie, the acting felt off with different characters and different things. Now, because I've seen that movie in theater, I don't have really precise note, sadly. It's a bit unfortunate, but the acting and directing wasn't that great. That's my first issue with Venom: The Last Dance. My second issue is something that came back many times based on what I see. Bad attempt at joke. Bad humor early in the movie. You hit rock bottom humor wise when you meet the guy that peed on Venom. That was terrible. I don't know who thought that'd be funny to add that kind of skit because they're not even jokes. It was horrendous and painful to witness. The first major stupid moment would be when Venom decided to turn into Venom just to dance with the woman despite him the one previously saying to Eddie they shouldn't be transforming too much as they'd attract the monster after them. Inconsistency on the monsters. In some scenes, they are shown as being able to somewhat see so they can fight and eat anything. Other scenes, apparently only Venom could be seen when he is transformed. It wouldn't be that inconsistent if we could actually see their point of view at least once or twice during actual fight. But no, each time the camera tells that's their point of view, that'd be very hard for them to fight as they have very, very blurry vision. It also added crazy plot armor on people that weren't meant to die at some point in the movie. Pacing was very bad most of the time. With the family was filler. The big farewell to the trilogy also lasted way too long. Hell, even both end credit scenes suck as they tease sequel that will never happen. Pretty much everyone is forgettable. The characters are really forgettable. Plot armor on Eddie, so the general blames Eddie for his team's death. He says all he need is to delete Eddie or the symbiote, yet they capture both and wait to be inside Area 55 to try to end him. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. It felt really stupid and contrived. F this part of the movie. I hate it so much. I have so much to say because it's still fresh. I've seen that yesterday, but yeah, bad. Now, I was overly negative. There's a few aspects that were decent. The action was entertaining. Eddie was cool. Venom was cool. The music was cool. The good symbiotes were fun as a twist since you expect them to be bad, but hey, they end up being good. That was probably the highlight and the only redeemable thing about that movie. And the only thing that tells me, you know what, that movie is not a one or a two. Because we had that army of Venoms. That was cool. I will admit that. But that's it. Like, that movie sucks. Do I regret seeing it? I don't think so because the Venom action with a bunch of different Venom was cool. Uh, but yeah, that's how I feel about that movie. So now we can let Dlord defend it a bit because I was very harsh on that movie.
Okay. Now, I went in because I didn't think it was going to be 100% best movie ever. Because usually you take it as a movie goes, right? Because they actually did do work on the film. The Here's where I said it before, and I kind of top of multi on top is if you know what the codex is, it's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth on it. Because by comic standards, okay, teasing Null is like teasing. So, fun facts. So, when they finally said where the symbiotes come from, because a lot of the earlier symbiotes have been ripped from the Life Foundation storyline, where they bled pieces off Venom to create other symbiotes. It's not like an accidental. It's they did it. It just helps that you have the other. Null is a universe-ending threat. I mean, he is darkness incarnate. Basically, I'm going to ask you this, Multi. Did you see the Thor with Gore the God Butcher?
No, I haven't seen most of the more recent Marvels. I think the only recent Marvels I've seen were like the Marvels and Guardian 3.
Okay.
Anything in between Black Widow because I've just seen Black Widow like 2 weeks ago. Um, Anything between Black after Black Widow and before Guardian 3 I haven't seen. So I haven't seen Far From Home. I haven't seen Thor. I haven't seen Multiverse of Madness either.
Okay. So the thing is, Gore's sword is supposed to be the Necro sword, which is the King in Black sword that is able to kill gods. So Null is a really interesting character, not because he's tied to the symbiotes and you kind of know who he is. The idea is if he breaks out of there, it's a universe-ending threat. Because, as I said, he's a primordial force. Now, the Codex, right? I like the film for the most part. I do agree. I don't like the family scene was unnecessary to me. Felt a little weird. The soldier and the other, right, trying to. Because I looked up a couple of who the characters were.
You
Right.
did more work than me on that.
I'm curious because I know the story they're drawing from, and I'm like, some of these people don't make sense. Who are they based on? Oh, okay. So the original, as I said, Life Foundation, right? It's a weird story, but him having to stop Null from coming over, that makes sense, right? Because to be honest, that's why I said like I like the story and it is a send off.
Yeah.
because the idea is Tom Hardy is not going to the MCU, at least as Venom, in any of the future. Venom,
That's a good thing because, I mean, they just send him off, you know?
so Venom is still teased because of the cockroach. But
Yeah.
the idea is Venom still had to die, or else Null was going to break into the universe. Now, do I see them paying? Now, I have to look up something because recent Spider-Man film, they did announce a potential King in Black film. Which there was two announcements. Sorry. I was following it because I cover comics. He basically has said there is going to be a Back in Black and a potential for a King in Black story.
Yeah.
So it's not an entirely dead end. Does that make sense, Multi?
It does.
Because supposedly it's either the Sony and the person who's on board, they have said they want to do a Back in Black story or they want to do the King in Black. But the idea, that's why the film ends the way it does. But it doesn't make sense that Null could break free. Null's going to have to break free somewhere else. And to be fair, I don't think they could handle Null.
And to be fair, that movie will bomb. Like, I think we were like 4 in my theater. And usually, big MCU stuff, we are at least 10 or 12. So that's telling. And I went there on a time where usually there's a lot more people. So that's really, people get the word that this movie sucks. So nobody goes there.
I'm actually curious. So what is because you could usually tell the not saying I rate some stuff right on Rotten Tomatoes, you get a rough idea. It's
Yeah.
Critics hate it. 36 and it's 79.
36 critics and 79
Audience.
user? Really?
Yeah.
Ow.
Critics,
This movie is like that.
critics hate it.
I'm online with these
Critics hate it.
I'm not
But
surprised.
the audience likes it.
Ow, I don't see what's good about that movie. That movie sucks.
I actually like some of the meta humor. Like it had where Tom Hardy was like sexiest man alive at one point. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there is some stupid plot convenience in there.
Yeah, goddamn stupid moments. Like, oh, I will dance with the girl.
It's kind of like, the xenophage can see it. But it's also like, it's one of those things of, you can take it as a film. It's not part of the official MCU, but it's a good ride.
Yeah.
Because I go back when I talk about Black Panther. Black Panther was a different entity, Vince the character. This just sends it off.
Yeah.
Because it does make you, but it also says, Venom says, this is just goodbye for now. Now, in reality, if you know what that means, he's going to come back.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, how will they? But that's why I said in some of the other Spider-Man, they've teased at least 2 other Spider-Man projects. But then again, they're also relaunching Fantastic Four. Now,
Yeah.
if I have no hopes. And first off, I don't want to see them touch Noel with a 10-foot pole.
But they
Because
will. Don't worry. They will. That's Sony. They will ruin everything they can just to keep the brand and IP.
well, okay, first off, every Fantastic Four film that ever launches is always bad because they never can get it right. But you got to look at it this way. How do you represent a threat like Galactus? It's kind of hard. The man devours planets. The Rise of the Silver Surfer gets a lot of shit because Galactus is a cloud. Null is, just to give you an idea, in the comics, when Null finally comes out, like, no one can stop him. Because, as I said, he's a primordial force. He's older than the universe. Well, he's a foundation in the universe. The only person who can replace him is another King in Black, and that becomes Eddie Brock, where he is now.
Yeah.
The idea is when he invades the Earth, he spreads symbiotes all over the Earth and takes it over.
That's interesting.
He is like, so if he gets out of there, and I mean, I find it a little stupid that, like, it's like a general, like, some of the characters in the film could have been done better. Like, the general realizes, because the other symbiotes are trying to warn, we're on the run from Null. And if Null gets out, like the scene where Toxin or Toxic is talking to the people, he goes, "You're dead, you're dead, you're dead." There is no one in this universe that can stop Null if he gets out of there.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not just the Earth he would take over. I think it's like in the comics, if people watch this and you're curious, he takes over Celestials' bodies. That's above a planet size. Celestials fight Galactus. So you gotta think of his scale. But I do like the story about the other symbiotes because a lot of them are hints at the other suits or the other ones. And they are good symbiotes, but they're broken off. Now, do I think the comics are a curtain mess with them? You think the Spider-Verse is a mess? Look at the Venom-verse.
That sounds terrible.
Think of it as every single time a piece of Venom is broken off, it forms a new one. And then somebody thought it's a good idea to do an anti-Venom storyline to fight other symbiotes. So you have anti-Venom symbiotes. Yeah, no. This is where I'm privy to the comics. But I think the film doesn't. Now, I was like, kind of, why are you teasing Noel when you aren't going to use him unless you have an event to explain it? And I'm like, you can't do Noel that way. And that's why the scene with the cockroach, with the one that breaks off, is going to be the new Venom.
If they do one.
And it's going to be how that becomes the new Venom, no one knows. And it's not that it's a bad film, it's an entertaining film. I find the family a little bit annoying. But you know, some of the acting could be better. But there's the parts with the soldier fighting the xenophage. Yeah, but it's like once you realize it, right? You know, it's a good film. I find myself sitting down and watching the whole thing. It's not a problem. But then again, that's probably why I think of it a little bit more positive. There is development. There is that. You know, Venom knows he has to sacrifice himself, or the universe is going to die. And I
Venom's
mean,
sacrifice was decent, I admit.
you got to admit, him sacrificing himself, taking all the little bug creatures out, that's a good epic way to go out.
Yeah, I won't lie, I agree with that.
And it just leaves it in a weird spot. Like Eddie Brock's character, which is Tom Hardy's, is left off in New York. He's empty. It's kind of going to be interesting going forward if they do anything with this. If they choose not to, we don't know.
Hopefully they don't, because I
It's going to be
don't
a
like
different.
that
It's going to be a
franchise.
different director. And I
Hopefully
mean, to
it
be
will be.
fair, I put it up there as they have no good ways to introduce concepts. And I say this as a person who, look, they had the rights to mutants, but they don't know how to introduce them.
Yeah.
And when they had the chance to introduce them, they don't know how. Like, let's say the Thanos snap created mutants. No, doesn't do it. Either that or you're going to say mutants have been there the entire time. We've just forgotten about it. Because that was one of the big problems when they were going to do the Avenger films. How do you do Infinity War without mutants? You found a way, but mutants were part of it. But so it's like this. Marvel can put it in there. You can try to execute it but it's going to be haphazardly executed because no one knows how. Venom's going to have to be introduced in a random Spider-Man story and probably go from there. And that's the only way I see it, because they're going to tease it and they're probably going to do nothing with it because, again, I think one of the next major Marvel films is going to be the Fantastic Four. That's going to be.
There's Captain America: Brave New World.
I have no hope for that.
Me neither, but that's still the next release they have.
Well, that's its own can of worms, Multi, because
I've seen the trailer. I'm already skeptical. I'm like, are they implying he has super strength because he does weird shit with the shield? And I hate that.
well, okay. The only difference between Captain America and Captain Falcon, right?
America had the goddamn serum, so he had super strength, but Wilson
So,
doesn't.
But this Falcon has no powers.
But yeah, I know, but that's why it's kind of weird. He flips stable and he throws the shield the way Captain does. It's just awkward. Like, we know he doesn't have power, so how can he do all of that cool stuff?
Well,
I hate this shit.
how can Flag Smasher be? Because at one point, but there's a whole problem, and it depends on how they do Brave New World. Because Brave New World was going to be a bait and switch potential.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of theories about it. That's why I have no hope for it.
Me
Because
neither, but I will
they
still see
wanted
it.
okay, they wanted it to be it's late here. The story where Captain America, or a version, was always a Hydra agent all along, and he takes over the United States with Shield. But it's actually led by Hydra, and that's how you get Hydra Cap. But I don't think they're gonna do that.
Me neither. But hey, to get back on Venom: The Last Dance, do you want to add more on
No,
that?
it's good. It's a solid film. Like I give it like a 7 out of 10. It's 7 or 8, and it's good. It's entertaining, and even the gags are funny. And you got to admit, you gotta love it when he turns into the horse.
Uh,
There is little gags in there that is good.
I
Like
I didn't laugh, but I didn't roll my eye. It was
you
fine.
enjoy it. There is enjoyable little parts. Now I think it's a little weird that Venom kills people. Not Venom, like he goes, "Oh, I need to feed a snack for the road," and bites off the heads of the people, and I'm like, "Well, you don't harm dogs; you just harm evil people." I guess that's the thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. But that was the deal they made, I think, in the previous
We're
Venoms.
only going to kill criminals, but it goes
Yeah.
along the lines of it is a weird universe. It's like I do say some of the stuff isn't acted, the family parts are weird, but it's a good, enjoyable film. That's what I say.
And for me, it's a 4 out of 10, just like the second, but I'd say it's slightly worst
Really.
because I had more issues that were different from each other. Um, but yeah, here are the thoughts on the trilogy, and I guess now we move on to the outro. What do you have going on your end of the internet?
Nothing in a moment, really. I have. You never know. I might do election coverage. It's like when you ask me, like, do it. It's fine. I've just been looking over that because if you don't know this, when this comes out, as we are close to the elections in the U.S. and having knowledge, I've just been grinding games, working on things. Diablo 4 seasonal stuff. I do have some commentary topics I do need to get to. But as I said, I had it in a month, The Last Dance on my stuff. So
Perfect.
um,
Well,
I might have, as I said, I might have the. I do have some stuff I'm going to redo. It's just I work it in between game content. And I'm debating on if I want to cover the politics next week. There's been a lot happening in the U.S. in the last couple of days. Because bear in mind, as recording on this stuff happened, I need to watch back and go over and look on Joe Rogan. That Trump was on Joe Rogan.
yeah.
Ah. Anyways, good. What do you have multi you do besides? You're going to get
Um,
in Ghost Recon?
yeah. Well, actually, I'm done with the first Ghost Recon. So coming next will be Jungle Storm. So it's like I think that was some kind of DLC or extension or like another version of the first one, but with different missions. So it's like it's not necessarily the second one, but it's like the second one. It's the second one, Whiteout being the second one. So that's coming next. And another Advance Wars stream just before that. Um, Outside of that, we got Tuesdays, Red Blue Podcast with Damsel and the listener next Tuesday. And the next mainstream movie review will be next month. Already next month with Gladiator 2. I'm looking forward to see that. And yeah, yeah, that's it. And with this being said, we are out.